Yes, welcome back. I tried to read about Ryanair airline company, but my camcorder is out of power again, and I'm thirsty. So let's try continue. And I'm sleepy. I'm really sleepy and thirsty, but sleepy. That's why, because I was playing this flight simulator game 2 nights and I did not sleep. And the night before that I did only sleep 4 hours. So that's my own mistake. So I like to make a video about Ryanair in English later. So I have to read it again, but I'm sleepy. I'm close to falling asleep. And I cannot remember all this information, but I like to read it anyway. And the weather's very strange. Then the sun is shining and it's hot, and then it's very cold, and now it's like a night. It's now the sun is gone. It's only 3 p.m. But I like to finish reading this. I have it on video long time ago, but I need to do it again. Probably have to do it next year too. Because a company like Ryanair, it keep growing, and in 2-3 years it's a much bigger company. Many more aircrafts maybe, or maybe not. Maybe they go broke. I don't think so. They have just made an order 500 new Boeing 737 MAX 10. They made the world's largest orders. So yes, I cannot see if my camcorder turns. I can only see when it goes like this. But sometimes the camcorder, the lens is turning. I cannot see it, and now I'm thirsty again. I need to drink. Yes. Let's try finish reading this, and I will try not to fall asleep.
Was of little value as substantiation for a comparison made in 2019. 200. The ACER said that customers would interpret adverts as saying that flying with Ryanair would mean they contributed fewer CO2 emissions to the Earth atmosphere, which could not be proven. 200. The ACER said that the adverts ads must not appear again in their current forms, as claims in them could not be substantiated. 200. Criticism of surcharges. In February 2011, a Ryanair passenger, Myro Garcia, brought a claim against Ryanair for unfair surcharges, claiming €40, £30, surcharge on passengers who failed to print out a boarding card before arrival at the airport was unfair. Judge Barbara Cordoba, sitting in the commercial court in Barcelona, held that, under international air travel conventions, Ryanair can neither demand passengers turn up at the airport with their boarding pass, nor charge them €40, £30 if they do not, and that The fines were abusive because aviation law obliges airlines to issue boarding passes. Judge Cordoba stated, "I declare abusively and, therefore, null the clause in the contract by which Ryanair obliges the passenger to take a boarding pass to the airport." The customary practice over the years has been that the obligation to provide the boarding pass has always fallen on the airline. The judge ordered a refund for Mr. Garcia and said the fact the company was a low-cost carrier did not allow it to alter its basic contractual obligations. 24. Ryanair appealed the decision and the appeals court in Spain overturned the ruling in November 2011, holding that the surcharge complies with international law. 201. In December 2011, Ryanair announced that it would fight against the UK Treasury's plan to ban what which magazine called rip-off charges made when customers paid by credit card. 202. EU legislation has already been drafted against surcharges for methods of payment. 203. Fuel incidents. On the 26th of July 2012, 3 Ryanair aircraft inbound to Madrid Barajas Airport diverted to Valencia Airport due to severe thunderstorms in the Madrid area. All 3 aircraft declared an emergency, Mayday, when the calculated usable fuel on landing at Valencia Airport was less than the final reserve, 30 minutes of flight, after having been held in the air for 50 to 69 minutes. 204. The Irish Aviation Authority investigated the incidents and came to several conclusions, including the aircraft in all 3 cases departed for Madrid with fuel over flight plan requirements. The crew diverted to Valencia with fuel more than the minimum diversion fuel depicted on the flight plan. Diverting with fuel close to minimum diversion fuel in the circumstances presented on the evening in question was likely to present challenges for the crew. Initial holding was to the southwest of Madrid, which increased the diversion time to the alternate. The crew declared an emergency by EU ops when the calculated usable fuel for landing at Valencia was less than final reserve. The Met conditions in Madrid were more significant than anticipated by the crew when reviewing the Met forecast. Consequently, the additional fuel carried was influenced by the forecast. Operations into a busy airport such as Madrid in thunderstorm conditions with the associated traffic levels can add significant delays to all traffic. Air traffic control in Valencia was under significant pressure with the number of diversions arriving in their airspace. 205. The Irish Aviation Authority made several recommendations, including that Ryanair should review its fuel policy and consider issuing guidance to crew concerning fuel when operating into busy airports with mixed aircraft operators and tips, particularly in poor weather conditions when diversions are likely. 205. The IAA also recommended that the Spanish Aviation Safety and Security Agency review delays into Madrid to consider if additional fuel should be recommended or required to be carried in normal operations, particularly where the southerly runways are in operation. 205. Among the causes of the incident, the Civil Aviation Accident and Incident Investigation Commission concluded that the company's fuel savings policy, though it complies with the minimum legal requirements, tends to minimize the amount of fuel with which its aircraft operate and leaves none for contingencies below the legal minimums. This contributed to the amount of fuel used being improperly planned and to the amount of fuel on board dropping below their required final fuel reserve. 206. In an interview with the Dutch investigative journalism program KRO Reporter, 4 anonymous Ryanair pilots claimed they were being pressured to carry as little fuel as possible on board to cut costs. 207. Ryanair and its CEO Michael O'Leary denied the allegations and sued KRO. 208, 209. On the 16th of April, 2014, The Dutch court decided that KO had provided sufficient evidence in 2 television episodes of Mayday, Mayday broadcast in 2012 and 2013 to back the claims in respect of Ryanair's fuel policy and fear culture. It also found that Ryanair had been given a right to reply in response to the claims. The broadcast of the programs was found to be in the public interest. Ryanair was ordered to pay the legal costs of the case. 210. Handling of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. Starting in late March 2020, in response to flight cancellations due to travel restrictions set by governments due to COVID-19, Ryanair was forced to cancel flights. This resulted in many of their staff being placed on furlough, with pay being cut by up to 50% for some employees placed on the Irish Temporary Wage Subsidy Scheme, TWSS. 211. The handling of refunds from Ryanair has caused a surge in complaints to the Commission for Aviation Regulation, CAR, with customers claiming that they have been refused a refund for the flight cancellation. 212. Many organizations have taken a stance against the aviation industry via actions or declarations in the press. 213. The Italian Civil Aviation Authority ENAC has threatened a ban of Ryanair due to alleged violation of local COVID-19 regulations. 214. The Ryanair chief executive Michael O'Leary said its planes would not fly if the airline was required to leave its middle seats empty to comply with in-flight social distancing rules. 215. He said blocking the space between seats was idiotic and would have no beneficial effect. 216. Competitors. Ryanair has several low-cost competitors. Although traditionally a full-service airline, Aer Lingus moved to a low-fare strategy from 2002, leading to a much more intense competition with Ryanair on Irish routes. 217. Ryanair is a member of Airlines for Europe, having formerly been a member of the defunct European Low Fares Airline Association. 218. 219. Airlines that attempt to compete directly with Ryanair are treated competitively, with Ryanair being accused by some of reducing fares to significantly undercut its competitors. In response to My Travel Light, which started to compete with Ryanair on Birmingham to Dublin route in 2003, Ryanair set up competing flights on some of My Travel Light's routes until it pulled out. Go was another airline that attempted to offer services from Ryanair's base in Dublin to Glasgow and Edinburgh in Scotland. A fierce battle ensued, which ended with Go withdrawing its service from Dublin. 220. In September 2004, Ryanair's biggest competitor, EasyJet, announced routes to Ireland for the first time, beginning with the Cork to London Gatwick route. Until then, EasyJet had never competed directly with Ryanair on its home ground. EasyJet later withdrew its Gatwick Cork, Gatwick Shannon, Gatwick Knock and Luton Shannon routes. 221. In 2012, Ryanair also responded to the decision of another low-cost carrier, Wizz Air, that planned to move its flight operations from Warsaw-Chopin Airport in Poland to the new low-cost Warsaw-Magdalene Airport in Nowodwory-Mazowiecki. 222. Ryanair had previously operated the route to Dublin from Warsaw but withdrew, claiming that the fees at Warsaw's main airport were too high. When Wizz Air began operations from Magdalene Airport, Ryanair began several new routes from the same airport, most of which were identical to routes offered by Wizz Air. In 2008, Ryanair asked the Irish High Court to investigate why it had been refused permission to fly from Knock to Dublin. This route was won by CityJet, which could not operate the service. The runner-up, Air Aran, was then allowed to start flights, a move Ryanair criticizes as the basis of not initiating an additional tender process was unlawful. 223. DFDS Seaways cited competition from low-cost air services, especially Ryanair, which now flies to Edinburgh Airport and London Stansted Airport from Göteborg Landvetter Airport, as the reason for scrapping the Newcastle-Gothenburg ferry service in October 2006. 224, it was the only dedicated passenger ferry service between Sweden and the United Kingdom and had been running under various operators since the 19th century. Destinations. Ryanair's largest base is at London Stansted, followed by its home base at Dublin Airport. 227, Ryanair operates bases across Europe and North Africa. 228,